ding 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 ding.
Bubble time.
Hey there, I am Teresa Tomey.
And I am Patrick Ziegler.
And we are
Fubble Entertainment.
And this is
Bubble time.
All right. My computer is so weird. It's saying we're already 2 minutes into it. It's so bizarre. Crazy, crazy.
I'm sure our audience needed to know that.
I know. Our audience. We love our audience.
Oh yeah, I gotta rate where, who's here, who's watching.
Here. Our numbers are starting to go up. We are excited to share this fine human being with you. He is not just a creative person professionally that we know, but he's a friend. So it's going to be fun to get to know more about J. Harper Philbin. Aloha, Kevin.
See, you already went rogue. You called him J. Harper, and that's not what you said.
I'm gonna just mix it all up, right? So
Aloha, is he in Hawaii, or is he just saying that?
He might just be saying that. Aloha, Kevin. Let me tell you who's our guest, shall I?
Yay!
John Harper Philbin has made many short films and 4 feature-length projects. That's funny. The latest being Driftless. Oh my God, why do I keep adding What? I am completely sober. So weird. An indie drama about state
park. An
indie drama about state park rangers. This is distributed, meaning you can see this by Cow Lamp Films in Chicago. Driftless is currently streaming on Amazon Prime, Tubi, Vudu, Zumo, IMDb TV Pro. He's going to have to tell us the other one. There's 6 ways.
And Redbox.
And Redbox, which is amazing. Philbin has been a professor at Grand Valley State University since 1997. He just retired in December of 2020. We might talk to him about his retirement days. Many of his movies were made with GVSU students serving as film crew, thanks to GVSU's innovative summer film project, which was led by Philbin and is now in its 25th year. I'm curious what his relationship is still with that program. For the duration of this interview, I have been tasked with calling him John, and Patrick is tasked with calling him Harper. Let's see if we can both do this correctly. And welcome, please, John Harper.
Hey, woohoo!
There he is.
All right. You'll be tested on whether you do the John and the Harper right, but no, it's okay. Either is fine.
So Harper is your professional name, right?
Harper is my middle name, and I started using it 20 years ago because there was an actor named John Philbin who was in things like North Shore and Shy People, and I went to lunch once in Hollywood, and I said, "Oh, I'm John Philbin." He said, "Oh, were you in North Shore?" I go, "No, that's John Philbin, the actor." So I just started using Harper Philbin, and I've used it ever since.
I like it. It's very cool.
I do too. It's a nice, and I like the J too. It's like JMJ Bullock.
That's exactly what I thought of. Not. My full name is Patrick Wilson Ziegler, and there's the actor Patrick Wilson, and so drop that. Fred Stella has a very important question.
He's clearly on topic here. Asking if there's going to be carpets from my new place. Yes, dear, there will be carpets.
See, now I thought he was asking me if there's going to be carpets on the front porch, because this is where Fred always comes to drink his whiskey and smoke his cigars. So
yes, and I've partaken in that, which is fun. And my dogs are barking.
But I don't hear any electric guitar in Teresa's place, though. So
no, he stopped. Perfect timing. So we ask everybody the same question to start things rolling. So do you want to throw that at him, Patrick Ziegler?
Yeah, I just realized Mark's on a Zoom at the same time. So our dogs are barking. So please forgive us. Harper,
Yes, Patrick.
when, how, where do you remember getting first bitten by the entertainment bug?
Good question. So I would probably say two things. One, in high school, my dad used to get these exotic Christmas presents from his boss every year, TV sets and hi-fis and all this. And one year his boss gave him a Super 8 camera, a Super 8 projector, and a little Super 8 editor. And he kind of looked at it, and I was looking at it like, wow. And he said, you want this? And I was like, yeah. And so I started to shoot my first little Super 8 movies on that. But that was sort of my first run in, desire to make movies. But as far as entertainment in general, I was in high school, I was on the stage crew for the theater, and I was the guy up in the lighting booth working the spot, and never was quite brave enough to get up on stage, but I still was part of the team, so that was fun.
But you also did music, and when did your music?
Well, that's true. Yeah, that was grade school.
But wait a minute, before we go on to that, I'm so intrigued that it came with a little editor.
Yeah, it's amazing. It was a little editor, and it had a little monitor and a little Super 8 tape slicer. There was no video editing back then, so you'd shoot it and you'd get it back from the lab, and then you could edit it. And I did that. I made a bunch of little weird high school movies.
Do any of them still exist?
If they might in the attic somewhere, and they probably, how celluloid rots over time. But going back to the music thing, in in grade school, I played trombone. So that's my first musical thing. Then
lots of creative.
Yeah, I know. And I was in a rock band in high school, and so music and film and.
But so but you're saying like, oh, I kind of picked up the trombone or I played trombone, and then I didn't really start into film until I was in high school. Like, I mean, some people will be like, I knew when I was 6 years old that I was going to make movies. So did you just not really even think about that until you got
the trombone thing was just, they were forming a band, and I thought, oh, it'd be cool to be in the band. And then the leader said, what instrument do you want to play? And I was like, trombone looks cool. got a slide, and it's kind of cool looking. I'm like, all right, I'll teach you the trombone. So that was that. As far as in high school, I was in a rock band, and I was on stage crew. I was also a co-editor of the school newspaper, and so I thought journalism would be my thing. So then I went to University of Iowa as a journalism major, and about a year into the program, I went, I really want to make films. I'm going to switch my major to filmmaking, and the rest is history.
So you majored in film.
I did, yeah. I got an undergraduate film degree at University of Iowa, and then a graduate degree at Southern Illinois.
When did you decide you wanted to teach?
That was a little different. That was really unexpected. So I went to LA after I graduated from Iowa, and worked as an editor out in LA in Hollywood, not far from where Teresa is now sitting. And I did that for about 6 years actually. And then I met this girl at a New Year's Eve party back in Chicago. And then we had a long distance relationship. And then I thought, oh, I should probably move back to Chicago and pursue this. She's now my wife, but anyway. And then I was in Chicago, and a friend of mine, Brian Reed, who was teaching at Columbia College, said, hey, you're between jobs. You want to teach a class? I'm like, I don't know how to teach. He goes, you know how to teach. You know all this stuff. You've been an editor. You've been in Hollywood. You can teach. All right, fine. Yeah, put me on a class. So I really liked it. And then I did 2 classes, and then they gave me 3 classes because the students liked what I was doing. And then I tried to get a full-time job, and they said, no, you got to have a graduate degree. And I'm like, here I am, 30. And I go, really? I got to go back to grad school and get a graduate degree?
Wow.
So I did. So I went down to Southern Illinois for 5 years, got my MFA, and then I got the job up at Grand Valley.
And your wife is an artist. I'm sorry, I am so gone rogue on our questions.
That's
I'm not
right.
anywhere near them.
Yeah, it's a typical night in our living room, but anyway, yeah.
Well, I'm just contemplating all of this creative. I mean, you ooze creativity. I mean, it's part of every part of your being. I mean, you were a journalism. So did you write a lot as a young person too?
I did. I did a lot of writing. I like journalism. I to this day I really like journalism movies. You know, All the President's Men and State of
Nice.
Play and all those kinds of things. Um, but I just when I was getting into the major and I was realizing, you know, hammering out these stories, cub reporter type of stuff, and I thought, you know, what I really want to do, my dream would be to be a filmmaker. Why don't I just go for that? And so I did. And I could have, you know, not everybody who goes through a film program ends up working in the film. You know, that's just the way it is. But I did, so it worked
What
out.
was the film department like at Grand Valley when you got there? Because it was Grand Valley College at that time, right?
It had already become university actually by then.
Oh, had it?
Yeah.
So were they doing you
Yeah,
created
they had
a
a
summer
well,
film program, right?
well, not quite exactly. There was three faculty
Okay.
there. There was Barbara Ruse, Deanna Morris, and Tony Perrine, and they had Gerb, who's Gerb's Tony,
Yeah.
Barb's husband. He had done a couple summer film projects, but he wasn't a full-time faculty member. But they thought this is a pretty cool idea, and basically when I came up, I basically pitched them an idea like the summer film project, and they said, "Well, we have a summer film project," and I'm like, "Well, that's my idea," or whatever. and they, you know, do you want to kind of shepherd it? And I'm like, absolutely, totally, you know. And I liked Grand Rapids, and I really liked my colleagues, Tony, Barb, and Deanna, and it was a good fit.
And when you left, how many people were part of that department?
Probably doubled. Certainly the faculty doubled, and then the student body went up a lot. When I was there, it was probably 200 majors. Probably peaked out around 400 somewhere a few years ago, and maybe now it's settled in around 300. But yeah, it definitely grew. The whole campus grew. It was incredible. I mean, every fall I would drive in there, there'd be a new building, a new dorm, a new this center, a new that center. The population of Grand Valley as a whole went from about, you know, 15,000 to 25,000 in the time that I was there. So
crazy. Sorry, go ahead, Patrick.
So are you? I have two things. Are you still involved in any form in what is it like now, the programming and everything?
Oh, yeah. Well, I just retired in December, so that's 9 months ago. But yeah, I don't, you know, I don't really. They're all my friends. I stay in touch with them, but you know, I don't get involved in policy stuff or, you know, what new courses should you teach or who's teaching what. You know, I mean, that's for the next generation to take over and make it shine.
So what
sorry.
what kind of classes? I'm so intrigued because I never went through that a film program. We were both theater. What classes did you teach?
I taught mostly film production, which would be how cameras work, shooting film, making a movie, you know, shooting, editing. I taught screenwriting, so that was a writing class. And then, you know, once in a while I would teach film studies where I got to show movies and talk about the history of film and stuff like that.
Nice.
That's what I want to know. When you said you decided that you wanted to do the movie, be a film, work in film. What part of it? I mean, you had editing experience, you made your own movies. Like, what part of it is most attractive to you, and how did you know you could do it?
I didn't, you know, you never know you can really do anything until you try.
Right.
To this day, I think, anyway. But I would have to echo what Todd Lewis said on your show a couple of weeks ago, which is the great thing about filmmaking is it involves everything. It involves writing, it involves acting, it involves editing, music, cinematography, and that just never gets old to me. You know, it's just like there's so many elements of those arts we were talking about. Great writing, great performance, editing is super important. Music is super important. Cinematography, I mean, they're all individual arts, but you need them all to make a movie work. If one of them is bad, you know, you can't have great cinematography, but it was terrible acting. You know, there's no good. Or, you know, great acting, but I couldn't see any of them. They're so badly shot. You know, you need everything working. And that just, you know, I dig that. I like that. I mean, I like that about music too. You know, you have all these instruments, bass, guitar, the drums, this, that, and to make the whole, you know, sound great. So yeah, so I mean, was there any one thing? I mean, everyone thinks they want to be a director, but, and I probably did too, but you don't really know what directing is. It just sounds cool. And you know that you like certain directors like, you know, Francis Coppola or whatever. But until you direct, you start to get what directing is, you know, and some people, I liked that. Some people do it and they go, you know what? I don't want to be a director. I want to be a cinematographer, you know. I want to be an editor. That's where I like, you know, so.
Do you study directors? Did you study
directors?
Sure.
I mean, I did a little bit in college and during my getting my degrees. I remember a big class in Hitchcock, for example. But then, you know, you learn a lot when you teach, because I'm setting up these classes in film studies where I'm showing all these movies and I have to research the directors, and whether it's, you know, Coppola or Stanley Kubrick or, you know, Jim Jarmusch or whatever it is, I have to sort of make sure I know what I'm talking about. And so that naturally leads me to watch their work. You know, I really do like, and this goes for, again, for music as well. I like watching a lot of a certain person's work so I can know their whole oeuvre, you know, and really understand the arc of their work and their, you know, their earliest stuff to their modern stuff and how they changed and how they're the same. I find that kind of interesting.
I want to ask you.
That goes to, we have a question from one of our viewers, Kevin, and he's been on our show. Who are 2 or 3 of your favorite film directors?
Oh, wow. Well, Francis Coppola, for certainly, just because I remember seeing The Conversation and then The Godfathers and Apocalypse Now, and just sort of what he brought to movies. And I love the fact that he could do all different kinds of genres. He wasn't like a specific kind of a director where you could immediately recognize their work, like Wes Anderson. I have anything against Wes Anderson, but he's immediately identifiable. Whereas Francis Coppola, someone like Robert Wise, who was way before his time and who I really wasn't aware of until recently, same kind of thing. He could work in any genre. He could do romance, he could do action, he could do war, he could do Star Trek musicals, yeah, Sound of Music. So I thought that's kind of cool. But I mean, I like all the old classics. I like Martin Scorsese. I like Stanley Kubrick. I like Woody Allen. You know, I like the Coen brothers. I'm trying to think of some movie if I heard a director, you know, what kind of who's the director that you would go to see for the director rather than the actors? You know, I mean, you always go to a movie like, oh, wow, you know, Russell Crowe's in it. I love Russell Crowe. But when you get to the point with the director, like, oh, that guy directed that? Oh, I want to see that.
Don't you think that? I mean, to me, that's such a Wes Anderson thing. Hi, Carol. That's such a Wes Anderson. I feel like you go to a Wes Anderson movie.
I think that's true.
See Gwyneth Paltrow, you go see Wes Anderson.
I think that's true. I think that's totally true.
You do that with, yeah.
He has a following.
Steven Spielberg, probably Spielberg. I know Todd Lewis would.
Yeah, no, Spielberg is always an event. You know, so.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that because you know, he's doing this remake of West Side Story, and
Robert Wise.
And I'm not a big fan of remakes, but I did see the trailer, and it is refreshing seeing Latino people playing Latino people, you know, and
Yeah.
so
And, you know,
so it actually made me think, oh, okay. And it's a new script. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, it's by
They don't want to live
Kushner.
in America anymore.
It's by Kushner, who wrote
Yeah,
Angels in
Tony
America.
Kushner. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm very interested because and that it's Steven Spielberg, right?
Yeah. No,
So
I mean, if you're going to do a remake of something that has that much, you know, one Best Picture, it's hugely famous, you know, it's really big film to a lot of people growing up, you know, that's a high bar to try and remake that and not fall flat on your face.
Yeah.
There was, speaking of Russell Crowe, 3:10 to Yuma was remade from a Glenn Ford film. And I thought I thought the remake was pretty dang good, you know.
I didn't realize it was I saw the Russell Crowe one.
True Grit.
Yeah, I thought the remake of that was really good, actually. I like Jeff Daniels as Rooster Cogburn, and in a way it was more true to the book than the John Wayne version. But yeah, but a lot of times remakes fail.
Not Jeff Daniels,
Jeff
Bridges.
Jeff Bridges, sorry, yeah.
Let's ask this question. So Fred says, I have a film question. Given that cinematography comprises an on-screen visual elements, including lighting, framing, composition, camera motion, camera angles, film selection, lens choices, depth of field, zoom, focus, color exposure, and filtration, who played lead guitar on Taxman?
That's funny. That's a Beatles joke, folks, in case you didn't get that.
And clearly, Fred Wikipedia'd what is the role of a cinematographer.
I will say this about working with a cinematographer as a director is, you know, I certainly choose the kind of frame I want or the kind of shot that because I think like an editor, because that's what I did before I directed. But it's very collaborative. You know, I love working with a good cinematographer. I worked a little bit with Todd Lewis on a short film recently, and you know, it's not, you know, filmmaking is not like you're a director and you tell the actor, do this, you know, do it this way. This is the way, you know, you want to say, you read the script, what do you think is the way to go with this? And sometimes you agree, sometimes you don't, but I like the collaborative part of it.
So,
and you created a relation on that cinematography. One thing, you created a relationship with the gentleman that you used a number of times. Didn't he work on Mad About You?
Yeah, Jack Anderson.
Right. And how many films did you guys do together? And why would you think, does that happen a lot that directors continue to work with some of the same cinematographers?
I think so. I think they do. And I think there's examples of it that I probably can't riff off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's a number of them. And I worked with Jack. You know, Jack was an old Hollywood pro, you know, and I was a youngish, you know, film professor who made local indie films. I didn't make Hollywood films. He worked on Steven Spielberg's Hook and the whole series of Mad About You and so on. So he comes to this little town in Grand Rapids, or the little town of Grand Rapids, not so little anymore. And you know, he was like the Hollywood guy, right? But he respected what I did, and I respected what he did, and we both had sort of gallows sense of humor about things. and he was old; he's about 10 years older than me, and I thought it was great. And I thought I got a lot of respect from students because Jack respected me so much. They were like, oh, you know, to me he's just Philbin, but Anderson thinks he knows what he's talking about, so maybe he does. I don't know. Yeah, so that was a good long collaboration between me and him, and we found ways. That's another reason you work with people besides you like each other's work. You develop shorthand, as they say. You know, you just know you understand each other and what to go for, and here's your area, here's my area. You know, he did write a book called How to Shoot a Movie Without Shooting Yourself in the Foot, which is really funny Jack Anderson humor. And he put me in the foreword called me, you know, John Harper Philbin, master of the impossible, because I think there was enough time on these Grand Valley films. It was like, how are you thinking we're going to do this? And then we did it. So
did you ever? I keep having so many questions. Did you ever? Two things. Did you ever expect to be where you are? Like when you said, I want to go down this path of filmmaking, did you like, here you are in West Michigan, and you have really helped kind of elevate the role of film in West Michigan. Do you see yourself as a part of having done that for our community? Like,
I think so. I mean, I think I know I did it for Grand Valley's film program,
right.
and Grand Valley's film program begot a lot of graduates during that 23 years I was there, and a lot of them stayed local and you know, making films in the state. You know, some went to the West Coast, the East Coast, Chicago, wherever. But yeah, I definitely feel like we're more of a film community than we were when I arrived here. But I don't think it's all because of me. But I mean, I do think I played a role. So.
Sure.
Well, the film incentives happened too, and that all of a sudden became a big, you know, thing, and unfortunately that went away. So, I would love to hear just a little bit about Driftless and how that came about, since that's your, you know, most recent project, and the topic. And I'm going to put in the chat here where people can find it.
Okay, so yeah, I'll try and keep this brief because I could talk about lots of elements of Driftless. But so in a nutshell, about 30 years ago, I made a documentary called The Law of Nature about park rangers in Yosemite Valley. It was on PBS. You can still find it on YouTube. And it was basically about how rangers were finding themselves being pushed into law enforcement, even though they had backgrounds as naturalists and resource managers. And I thought, that's kind of weird to me. That's incongruous somehow. It'd be like telling a professor, oh, and you have to do law enforcement too, because we don't have campus security. Like, what? Yeah. Well, there'll be, you know, firearm training on Friday for you. You know? So I made it, and that it was good, you know, good. It came out well. But I always thought that would make a good fiction film, you know, a good feature film, Hollywood style movie, you know, with this subject matter. And so it was on the back burner for 30 years. And then I finally said, let's make a ranger movie. Yep. Wow. So it was, you know, there's a lot of luck involved because, you know, all movies, there's a lot of luck involved. Had a big cast. We cast a lot of people out of Chicago, Detroit, Grand Rapids, Greg Rogers, notably out of Grand Rapids, Jennifer Jelsma. Yeah. And we had everybody but the lead, who was a Native American female, because it was just super hard to find that in where we looked. So we threw out a national call, and we found Monique Candelaria from Albuquerque, and she just fit the part. And we said, you know, this is a university production. We raised some money through crowdfunding as well, but, you know, it's not a big budget deal. And she goes, I love the role. I love the script. I said, you know, you'll be staying in Grand Valley's dorms. That's fine. I love helping students, the next generation of filmmakers. And so that's how it all came together.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And the biggest worry I had, I think, was the weather, because so much of it is exteriors. You know, in any movie, there's some interiors, some exteriors. This was heavy exteriors. So, you know, in West Michigan, if it rained for 3 days, you know, we would be down. I'd be paying actors to sit around and wait. I'd be paying for equipment I wasn't using. So we lucked out. We shot it in the second half of July, and I think we only got rained out one day. But we had some great, you know, local people. Vinny Walsh, who was the DP. He was an alum of Grand Valley. Sherry Beth Dusak is a local producer. She came on. Peter Hawley was teaching at Loyola in Chicago, and I knew him from before. And while he was working on the film, he became director of the Illinois Film Office. So we went, that's convenient. That might work out. Yeah, so it was you know, Joe McCarger, who's one of my longtime associates at Grand Valley, now also retired, was there on set every day doing sound with the students. I mean, the most of the crew are students, but we had a few keys in there to help guide them through the process.
Has that changed over time? Have you brought in more professionals over time?
Probably. I always had a director and a DP, and I think, you know, having an associate producer like Sherry Beth or Joe would always help out, but I would say what changed over time is they actually started to pay him. He was such a nice guy that he would just do it to help out the project. And at some point I was like, this guy's here, constantly.
Yeah.
Pay him, will you? And so they did.
And it's been playing at a few different festivals and winning some awards too.
Yeah,
right?
that was kind of exciting. Yeah, it played at Denali National Park, which is didn't even know that festival existed until I was Googling about, and I'm like, well, a national festival in National Park, I better send my movie about Rangers there. And it won Best Feature and Best Actress for Monique, and then played in Albuquerque, which was Monique's hometown. And I went there for that screening, and it also won Best Feature and Best Actress.
So
and
great.
It just played over in Royal Oak, where it won Best Supporting Actor for James Dolbear, who's like the backcountry ranger. He's really funny. He's a Chicago actor, and so that was nice for him as well.
And what we haven't spent time talking about is you did write this. Did you write this one with your writing partner? Did John Dufresne also write with you?
She did, yeah.
How did you find him, and how is the collaborative process? Because I work with this writer who's kind of a pain in the ass. But
that guy. Anyway,
she can't be talking about me. I have a halo.
So John Dufresne and I met when he submitted a short film for the Summer Film Project called The Freezer Jesus. I directed it, and I just thought it was nice script, very well written, and that was about it. And then later, I was looking to collaborate on my first feature, which was To Live and Die in Dixie, a courtroom drama.
Yeah.
And that was his script. It was, and then I worked with him to kind of shape it for something within our budget, and so that's where we really kind of spent a lot of time together. And then after that, we just said we liked working together. We just work very easily together. There's not a lot of big, egos, and we kind of give and take pretty easily. He is a professor and he's a novelist. He's published 4 or 5 novels, a couple books of short stories. So he's a prolific writer, and he just likes screenwriting. And we did Lucky Jay, which was our satire of being a film professor together. And then I brought him the idea of Driftless. I said, "You want to do this?" He said, "Sure." I said, "Well, it's based on this documentary." He watched the documentary, and we just went from there.
Nice.
Yeah, I was going to say something else about, well, just that it's funny because you're sitting in a little room somewhere writing this stuff, as you guys know as writers, and then all of a sudden, a year later, there's 50 people running around setting stuff up and actors in wardrobe, and you're going, you didn't have to go to all that trouble. I was just writing a little thing here. But Driftless was, we wrote it, basically said, well, what's the stuff that's ever happened in a national park that rangers had to deal with in terms of troublemakers and crime or whatever. And we found a bunch of stuff, pulled it from the headlines, pulled it from the past 10 years, from Zion, from Chicago, from the Appalachians, all over. We shoved them all together and said, let's say it all happens in one weekend, 4th of July weekend. And then when it came out, everybody thought it was like a metaphor for America today, red versus blue, left versus right, because there's so much sort of headbutting of like these ideologies there. And they thought it was a great metaphor for that. And I was thinking, when we set out to do it, it wasn't exactly intended to be, I knew that it had some elements. The main element to me was what happens when you start to lose faith in people, whether you're a flight attendant being harassed by people on a plane, or you're a nurse being harassed by your patients. What happens when you just start to, I don't like the people I'm working for, a waitress, I don't like working for you people anymore. You're a bunch of assholes, if you pardon the expression. And what do you do with that? And so that was sort of this Nova character who she's kind of gets into law enforcement, and instead of dealing with happy campers all the time, she's dealing with troublemakers.
Right.
And it just starts to wear on her, and she just starts to go, I'm in the wrong business. And her fellow ranger is saying, no, you're in the right business. You're great at this job. And she finds a way to get back to work, get back on the horse and just get back to doing what she does. And so, things work out in the end. But I think everybody goes through that. And I think that's why people are relating to it as a metaphor for today, because I think a lot of people on either side are feeling like, I can't deal with these jerks anymore. And so they thought that was sort of what it was. Wow. Hey, Beethoven. Anyway.
My sister Mary Kay is calling.
I have a question, and we're about
and
ready
you
to
got to wrap up.
I know, but I saw To Live and Die in Dixie, and I really liked it. I saw it at the movie theater. Is it anywhere that people can see it?
Yeah, it's actually on Grand Valley's. If you go to Grand Valley's film video site, there's a little box that says Summer Film Archive, and if you hit it, all the summer film links to all of them come up. And I think it's on Vimeo or whatever, and it's free, and you can watch it. It showed at the UICA recently for a little retro of local filmmakers. Edie Evans Hyde is in it. I know you had her on your show, and
isn't Mickey Lamar in it?
Mickey's in it. Yep.
Yeah.
Fred, the Beatles' Stella has a little cameo in it, and a bunch of people. Tim Moriarty has a big, super nice role.
And Jana's in it too, I think.
Yeah, Janet.
Grand Valley website, summer film.
So it would be gvsu.edu/film video. That's the film video page. And then you have to scroll through the menu to find Summer Film Project.
Okay, you said that way too fast, so let me do it again. GVSU.
.edu. /film video, one word.
And
once you get there should be a menu thing that says Summer Film Project. And if you click on that, that'll take you to the archives.
That's good to know. I didn't know that. That's very cool.
There's a lot of good short films on there, including Flickering Blue with James Karen that Teresa Tone makes a little cameo appearance in, smoking a cigarette.
Smoking Woman, and I'm on the one, you can do a Google search of me, and it says actors on screen who smoked as a bad thing. Teresa Tomei.
Really?
Woman. Yeah.
All
yeah.
Right. Wow.
And hadn't you stopped smoking at that point?
Oh yeah, I haven't had a cigarette in years.
She does anything for the part, she's an actor. You got to do.
You got to.
That's when I first met you, and I went to the set. I first met you and went to the set, and met Jimmy, which was so great.
Guy,
So we are, thanks for Jerry Rashes. Thanks for sharing those links. Thanks for joining us, Jerry. I just want to ask one question on our way out. What do you think has been your best advice to students over the years who are considering creative life? And not just students, just any individual at any age. I mean, you went back at 30 for your graduate degree, somebody who decides they want to, and then we got to ask it quick before you.
I know. Just noticing, I was like, oh yeah, I'm outside, you're inside, and it's getting darker, and now it's just the computer screen. I could turn on my porch light, but anyway.
Good choice of white turtleneck.
We're about to wrap up, but I would say, I think Todd might have said something similar to this, and it's certainly nothing that I made up, but it's the classic thing. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Okay, it's a long haul. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I've had students get discouraged, one or two film school at Grand Valley, and write, maybe I should give up my dreams, maybe I'm not finding any, and I'm like, give it another decade. You know what I mean? Not another month, give it another decade. I mean, it's a long haul.
Give it another 30 no's.
Yeah. So that would be my advice, is just, you got to be in it for the long haul. You're not going to get overnight success unless you're really lucky.
And what's on your horizon?
I'm writing again. It's been kind of COVID time, so production has been, limited. But mostly, I'm working with John again in Florida. He's down in Florida, teaching at Florida International University, and we're developing another feature. And down the road, hopefully, we'll shoot it. So
nice.
The Ghost.
Well, Harper. Yeah. This was wonderful.
Well, thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Teresa. I hope to see you in person soon.
I know. It's been too long. So.
All right.
Thank you for sharing your. Rebecca Donald says that was great.
Oh, thanks, Rebecca.
Thank
It was
you.
a pleasure. It was my pleasure. So.
And like I said, people check out the gvsu.edu/film video and his movie Driftless.
Driftless is on all those streaming platforms, and most of them are free. So check them out.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
You see what I did?
Everybody
You see what I did? I went rogue. I said John.
That's right. See, I knew I would catch you one of these times.
I win.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
All right. Hopefully he'll stay in our green room and not leave us. Hey, I love that man. He's Kevin Listick, 4 stars. I hope it's out of 4 stars.
Yes, Kevin, look him up. I think you would like his stuff. So.
So anyway, we will be back next week with a new month and new show. Oh, I like Fubble bunnies.
Fubble bunnies. That's new for us.
That's so funny.
Teresa did have a bunny at one point too.
I did have a bunny, but my friend Chuck is all right. Kevin, out of 4. Yahoo! My friend Chuck, I used to call him Chuckle Bunny, so I like Fubble bunnies. Yay. I think that's channeling our Chuck. So thanks for that, Jerry. We will see you next week, same time, same bat channel. And with that, we say,
God.